Amy Carter stood in the middle of the huge metal room and felt very small. The space station, called Aurora Dawn, was bigger than any building she had ever seen on Earth. The walls were white and clean, and bright lights made everything look sharp. And cold. She was only 5 feet tall, which made her feel even smaller next to the alien creatures walking around her. Amy wore her blue uniform with the Earth flag on her shoulder. Her brown hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her green eyes looked around at everything with wonder and worry. "Stay close to me," said Commander Jake Morrison. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. "These aliens are not used to humans yet. We need to make a good first impression." Amy nodded and followed Jake through the station. Other humans walked with them, but Amy felt like she was the one everyone was staring at. The aliens were so different from humans that she had to try not to stare back. The first group they met were the Vorthik. These aliens looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was green and covered in scales that looked like armor. They had long tails and yellow eyes that seemed to look right through Amy. The biggest one was called Sethkar, and he was their leader. "So these are the humans," Sethkar said in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. His long tongue flicked out as he spoke. They look very weak. "Are you sure they can handle real work?" Jake smiled and tried to stay polite. "Humans may look different, but we are stronger than we appear." Sethkar looked down at Amy and made a sound that might have been laughter. "This one looks like a child. Does your species send children to do adult work?" Amy felt her face turn red, but she did not say anything. She knew Jake was trying to make friends with these aliens, and she did not want to cause trouble. The next group was even stranger. The Zephyrians looked like they were made of living crystal. They were tall and thin, and light seemed to shine through their bodies. When they moved, they made soft ringing sounds like wind chimes. Their leader was called Lung Crystal, and she spoke in a voice that sounded like music. "The human female is very small," Lung Crystal said, her crystal body flashing with different colors. "Are all humans so fragile? On our world, only the strongest are allowed to work with dangerous creatures." "Amy is one of our best," Jake said. "She may be small, but she is very smart and brave." The crystal alien made a sound like broken glass. "Intelligence is good, but it cannot help when a beast is trying to eat you." The last group was the most frightening. The Groundmans looked like huge bears that walked on their back legs. They had thick fur, sharp claws, and teeth that could bite through metal. The biggest one was called Thul Grim, and he was 8 feet tall. His voice was so deep that Amy could feel it in her chest when he spoke. "Ha!" Thulgrim laughed, and the sound echoed through the room. "This tiny human could be blown away by a gentle breeze. Why did you bring her here?" "Amy is part of our team," Jake said, but Amy could hear that he was getting angry. "Your team would be better without dead weight," Thulgrim said. He looked down at Amy like she was an ant. "On my world, we eat things smaller than her for breakfast." Amy wanted to say something back, but she bit her tongue. She had trained for 2 years to get this job. She knew more about alien animals than most people on Earth, but these creatures only cared about how big and strong she was. Jake led the group through the station, showing them different rooms and machines. The aliens talked among themselves, making jokes about humans, and especially about Amy. They did not try to hide their laughter. "Look at her trying to keep up," Sethkar said to the others. "Her little legs can barely carry her. I bet she cannot even lift a weapon," Thulgrim added. "What will she do when we meet the Ravenclaw beasts?" Amy had heard about the Ravenclaw beasts. They were the reason everyone was here. These creatures lived on a planet called Kethfor Prime, and they were some of the most dangerous animals in the galaxy. They were 12 feet tall, covered in armor-like skin, and had claws that could cut through steel. The station was built to study these beasts, but many researchers had been killed trying to work with them. Only the strongest and bravest from each alien species were allowed to get close to them. The Ravenclaw beasts have killed 47 researchers in the past 5 years, said Dr. Lisa Park, the human scientist. She was a smart woman with short black hair and glasses. They are beautiful creatures, but very dangerous. The group walked to a huge window that looked down into a large cage. Inside the cage was a Ravenclaw beast, and Amy had never seen anything like it. The creature was massive, with dark fur and skin that looked like metal plates. Its claws were as long as Amy's arm, and its teeth were sharp like knives. But Amy noticed something that the others did not see. The beast was not acting like a dangerous predator. It was lying on its side, breathing slowly. Its eyes looked dull, and patches of its fur were falling out. "That one is sick," Amy said quietly. "What?" Jake asked. "The beast. It is sick. Look at how it breathes. Look at its fur." The aliens heard her and started laughing again. "The little human thinks she knows about our research," Sethkar said. "We have been studying these beasts for years. She has been here for one day and thinks she is an expert," Lumcrystal added, her crystal body flashing with what looked like amusement. But Amy kept watching the beast. She had studied animals her whole life, first on Earth and then in training for this mission. She knew when an animal was sick, and this one was very sick. "We will go down to the planet tomorrow," Jake announced. "We will study the beasts in their natural home." The aliens nodded, excited about the chance to see the creatures up close. But Amy felt worried. If the beasts in the safe cage were sick, what would they find on the planet? That night, Amy lay in her small room and thought about the day. The aliens thought she was weak and useless. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was too small and too weak for this job. But she had seen something they missed. The beast was sick, and if she was right, there might be many more sick beasts on the planet. Someone needed to help them, and maybe her small size and careful eyes were exactly what was needed. Amy closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but she kept thinking about the sick beast and the dangerous planet they would visit tomorrow. The next morning came too soon for Amy. She woke up in her small room on the space station and put on her thick exploration suit. The suit was heavy and made her feel even smaller, but it would protect her from the dangerous planet below. Dr. Lisa Park knocked on her door. "Ready for the big day?" Lisa asked with a smile. Lisa was excited about the mission, but Amy could see worry in her eyes too. "I think so," Amy said. "Are you nervous?" "A little," Lisa admitted, "but we have trained for this. We know what we are doing." They walked to the transport bay where the other team members were waiting. The aliens looked ready for battle. Crexton was a Vorthic warrior with dark green scales and scars on his arms. He carried weapons that looked like they could cut through rock. Lumcrystal was a Zephyrian scholar, but her crystal body was harder than diamond. She could sense things through the ground and see in the dark. Her light could blind enemies if needed. Brogmar was a Grongnid hunter, even bigger than Thulgrim. His thick fur could stop bullets, and his claws were sharp enough to climb straight up cliffs. He looked at Amy like she was a bug he might step on. "Are you sure the small human should come with us?" Crexton asked Jake. "The planet is very dangerous. She will slow us down." "Amy is part of the team," Jake said firmly. "She knows more about animal behavior than anyone here." "Knowledge is useless if you are dead," Brognar said in his deep voice. "I have seen warriors twice her size killed by Ravenclaw beasts." Amy wanted to defend herself, but she knew words would not change their minds. She would have to prove herself with actions. The transport ship was big and strong, built to handle. The rough landing on Kethver Prime. Amy sat in her seat and watched through the window as they flew away from the station. The planet below looked beautiful but scary. It was covered in forests that sparkled like jewels. "Those are crystal trees," Lisa explained. "The whole planet is rich in rare minerals. That is why the Ravenclaw beasts have such strong armor skin. They eat the crystals." As they got closer to the planet, Amy could see that something was wrong. The crystal forests should have been bright and colorful, but many areas looked dark and dead. The crystals were covered in something that looked like black moss. "What is that dark stuff on the trees?" Amy asked. "Probably just shadow," Crexton said without looking. "You humans worry too much about small things." But Amy kept watching. The dark patches were not shadows. They were something else, something that was spreading across the beautiful crystal forests like a disease. The transport landed in a clearing near some caves. The moment they stepped outside, Amy felt the difference. The air was thick and hard to breathe. The ground was covered in crystal fragments that crunched under their feet. "Stay close together," Jake ordered. "We do not know what dangers are out here." The aliens moved easily across the rough ground. Crexton's scales protected him from the sharp crystal pieces. Lum Crystal-S feet did not make any sound as she walked. Brogmar's thick paws could step on anything without pain. Amy struggled to keep up. Her boots were good, but the crystal pieces were everywhere. She had to watch every step to avoid falling. The aliens got farther ahead of her with each minute. "The human is falling behind," Brogmar called back. "We should leave her with the ship. We stay together," Jake said. "That is an order." Amy tried to walk faster, but the ground was too dangerous. She focused on watching everything around her instead of trying to keep up. That was when she noticed the water dot. There was a small stream running through the crystal forest. The water should have been clear, but it was cloudy and had a strange smell. When Amy looked closer, she saw that the black moss was growing in the water, too. "The water is contaminated," she called to the others. "What?" Lisa asked, walking back to see what Amy was looking at. "Look at the water. It is not clean. That black stuff is growing in it." Lisa took out her scanner and tested the water. Her face went pale. Amy is right. This water is full of some kind of fungus. It is very dangerous. The alien stopped walking and came back to look. Crexton used his scanner too. The human is correct. This water is poisoned. If the water is bad, then the animals that drink it will get sick, Amy said. That is why the beast at the station looked so weak. "Impossible," Brogmar said. "Ravenclaw beasts are too strong to get sick from water." "Any animal can get sick if the water is bad enough," Amy replied. "We need to find clean water sources and see if the beasts there are healthier." The aliens looked at each other. They had not expected the small human to make such an important discovery so quickly. "We will make camp here tonight," Jake decided. "Tomorrow we will explore the caves where the beasts live." They set up their camp in the clearing. The aliens worked together to build a strong shelter, but they still did not include Amy in their plans. She sat by herself and watched the forest. Around them as the sun went down, the crystal trees began to glow with their own light. It was beautiful, but Amy noticed that the trees covered in black moss did not glow as brightly. The fungus was killing the crystals, and if the crystals were dying, then everything that depended on them would die too. "Listen," Lisa said softly. "Do you hear that?" In the distance, they could hear strange sounds. It was like singing, but deeper and sadder than any human song. The sounds echoed through the crystal forest like the voices of ghosts. "Ravenclaw beasts," Crexton said. "They are calling to each other. It sounds like they are in pain," Amy said quietly. "Beasts do not feel pain the way we do," Brogmar said. "They are just animals." But Amy had spent her life studying animals, and she knew that all creatures could feel pain and sadness. The songs in the forest sounded like crying, like creatures calling for help that would never come. "We should go to sleep," Jake said. "Tomorrow will be a long day." Amy lay in her sleeping bag and listened to the sad songs of the Ravenclaw beasts. She thought about the sick beast in the station, the poisoned water, and the dying crystal trees. Everything was connected, but she was the only one who seemed to understand. The aliens thought she was too small and weak to be useful. But maybe being small would help her see things that big, strong creatures missed. Maybe being quiet would help her hear things that loud, confident voices could not. As she fell asleep, Amy made a promise to herself. She would prove that humans belonged in the galaxy, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they cared about things that others ignored. She would help the Ravenclaw beasts, even if everyone else thought she was too small to matter. The sad songs continued through the night, and Amy dreamed of great creatures crying in crystal caves, waiting for someone to understand their pain. Amy woke up to the sound of the aliens getting ready for the day. The morning light made the crystal trees sparkle, but she could still see the dark patches of fungus spreading like shadows across the forest. "Today we go into the caves," Jake announced. "Everyone stay alert. These beasts are extremely dangerous." The team packed their equipment and headed toward the large caves at the base of a crystal cliff. Amy carried her scanner and sample containers, trying to keep up with the others. The aliens moved fast and confident, their weapons ready. "The caves go deep into the mountain," Crexton said, checking his map. "The beasts like to live in the darkness where they can hide. My crystal sense tells me there are many large creatures ahead," Lum Crystal added. Her body glowed softly as she used her natural abilities. "They are not moving much. Strange." "Maybe they are sleeping," Brogmar suggested. "Good. Sleeping beasts are easier to study." But Amy wondered if there was another reason the beasts were not moving much. If they were sick like the one at the station, they might not have energy to move around. The cave entrance was huge, big enough for the massive Ravenclaw beasts to walk through easily. The walls were covered in smooth crystal that reflected their lights in beautiful patterns. But Amy noticed that even here, the black fungus was growing in small patches. "The infection is spreading everywhere," she said to Lisa. "It is even inside the caves." "You are right," Lisa said, taking pictures of the fungus. "This is worse than we thought." They walked deeper into the cave system, following tunnels that twisted and turned through the mountain. The air got colder and harder to breathe. Amy had to use her light to see where she was going. "There," Crexton whispered, pointing ahead. "I can see them." The tunnel opened into a huge underground chamber. The ceiling was so high that their lights could not reach it. And there, in the middle of the chamber, was a pack of Ravenclaw beasts. Amy had never seen anything so amazing and terrifying at the same time. The beasts were even bigger than the one at the station. Their armor-like skin was dark gray, and their claws were longer than her whole body. But something was very wrong. "They are not moving," Brogmar said, confused. "Ravenclaw beasts are always moving, always hunting." "Look at their skin," Amy said quietly. "It is not shiny like it should be. And see how they breathe? They are sick." The largest beast, clearly the leader of the pack, was lying on its side. Its breathing was slow and difficult. Patches of its fur were falling out, and its eyes looked dull and tired. "This is perfect," Crexton said excitedly. "We can get close and take all the measurements we need." "Be careful," Jake warned. "Sick animals can be more dangerous than healthy ones." The team moved closer to the beasts, setting up their equipment. Amy watched the creatures carefully. She could see that they were suffering, but they were not aggressive. They seemed too tired to care about the strangers in their home. "The big one is definitely the alpha," Lisa said, pointing to the largest beast. "He is probably the father of the younger ones." Amy looked at the smaller beasts near the alpha. They were still young, maybe babies, but they were already as big as horses. They stayed close to their father, making small crying sounds. "They are scared," Amy said. "The babies are scared because their father is sick. Beasts do not get scared," Brogmar said. "They are just animals." But Amy knew he was wrong. She had seen the same behavior in Earth animals when their family members were hurt. The young beasts were trying to comfort their father, just like human children would do. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. Small pieces of crystal fell from the ceiling, making sharp sounds as they hit the floor. "What is happening?" Lisa asked, looking around nervously. "The tunnel is not stable," Crystal said, her crystal body flashing with alarm. "The infected crystals are weak. They cannot support the weight of the mountain." The shaking got stronger. Larger pieces of crystal began to fall, and the team realized they were in serious danger. "We need to get out of here now," Jake shouted. But before they could move, a huge section of the ceiling collapsed. Crystal fragments crashed down like rain, and the team scattered to avoid being crushed. Amy heard a terrible sound, a deep, painful roar that echoed through the chamber. When the dust cleared, she saw that the alpha beast was trapped under a massive crystal formation that had fallen from the ceiling. The great creature had thrown itself over its babies, protecting them from the falling crystals. But now it was pinned down, unable to move. Blood was flowing from wounds where the sharp edges had cut through its armor skin. "We have to get out of here," Crexton said, looking at the unstable ceiling. "More crystals will fall soon." "What about the beast?" Amy asked. "It is just one animal," Brogmar said. "We cannot risk our lives for a beast." Amy looked at the trapped creature. It was looking back at her with pain in its eyes. The young beasts were crying and trying to dig their father out, but they were too small to move the heavy crystals. "We cannot just leave him here," Amy said. "The crystal formation weighs several tons," Crystal said after scanning it. "Even with all our strength combined, we cannot lift it." "Our transport ship is damaged," Jake said, checking his radio. "It will take hours to repair. We do not have mechanical equipment to help." The other team members began to move toward the exit, but Amy stayed where she was. She walked closer to the trapped beast, and to everyone's surprise, it did not try to attack her. "Amy, get away from there," Jake called. "It is still dangerous." But the beast made a low, soft sound that Amy recognized. It was not a growl or a roar. It was the sound an animal makes when it is asking for help. "He knows I want to help him," Amy said quietly. "Look at his eyes. He is asking us to help." "Animals do not ask for help," Crexton said. "They do not. Think like we do." Amy knelt down near the beast's head. The creature was huge, but it was gentle with her. It did not try to bite or scratch. Instead, it made soft sounds like it was trying to talk to her. "I am going to help you," Amy said to the beast. "I do not know how yet, but I will find a way." The other team members were getting ready to leave, but Amy stayed by the trapped creature. She studied the crystal formation, looking for any way to free the beast. "Amy, we have to go," Lisa said. "The ceiling could collapse completely at any moment." "Then go," Amy said. "But I am staying here." "You cannot move that crystal by yourself," Brogmar said. "You are too small and weak." "Maybe I cannot lift it," Amy said. "But maybe I can find another way." The aliens looked at each other. They thought Amy was being foolish, risking her life for an animal, but Amy had made up her mind. She was going to save the beast, even if she had to do it alone. The trapped creature looked at her with hope in its eyes, and Amy knew she could not let it down. Sometimes the smallest person had to do the biggest job. Amy knelt beside the trapped beast and studied the crystal formation that held it down. The other team members had moved to a safe distance, but they were still watching her with worry and confusion. "Amy, please come away from there," Jake called. "We need to leave before the whole cave collapses." "Just give me a few minutes," Amy said, not looking away from the crystals. "I think I can figure this out." The massive crystal formation was too heavy to lift, but Amy had studied geology in school. She knew that crystals grew in patterns and they had weak points where they could break. If she could find the right spot, maybe she could change how the weight was distributed. "What are you doing?" Lisa asked, staying close enough to help if needed. "Look at how the crystals are positioned," Amy explained. "They are not just sitting there randomly. They are connected in a structure. If I can break the right connections, the whole thing might shift." Amy took out her small tools, a hammer, a chisel, and a scanner that could show her the internal structure of the crystals. The tools looked tiny compared to the massive formation, but they were all she had. "You are wasting your time," Crexton said. "Even if you could break some crystals, there are tons of weight pressing down." "She is going to get herself killed," Brogmar added. "And for what? One animal?" But Amy ignored their words. She had found something interesting. The crystal formation was not one solid piece. It was made of many smaller crystals that had grown together. If she could separate them in the right places, she might be able to create a path for the beast. To escape, she began to work carefully, using her tools to find the weak points in the crystal structure. It was dangerous work. Every time she hit a crystal, more pieces fell from the ceiling. But she did not stop. The trapped beast watched her with intelligent eyes. It seemed to understand that she was trying to help, and it stayed very still to make her work easier. "Amy, you have been working for 2 hours," Jake said. "The ceiling is getting more unstable. We really need to go." "I am making progress," Amy said, wiping sweat from her face. "Look, I have created a small gap here. If I can make it bigger, maybe he can pull himself out." "That gap is only a few inches," Lumcrystal said. "The beast needs several feet of space to escape." Amy kept working. Her hands were cut from the sharp crystal edges, and her arms ached from the constant hammering. But she could see that her plan was working. The crystal formation was slowly changing shape. Then something amazing happened. The beast began to help her. The great creature used its powerful claws to scrape away the small pieces of crystal that Amy had loosened. It worked carefully, trying not to hurt her with its massive claws. The beast was in pain, but it was helping with its own rescue. "I do not believe this," Crexton said, staring at the scene. "The beast is helping her. Animals do not cooperate." "Like this," Brogmar said, but his voice was uncertain. Amy smiled as she worked alongside the beast. "He is not just an animal. He is smart. He understands what we are trying to do." The other Ravenclaw beasts in the chamber began to move closer. The young ones came first, watching their father work with the strange small human. Then the adult females approached, making soft sounds of encouragement. "A whole pack is getting involved," Lisa said in amazement. "They are trying to help." 2. The other beasts began to use their claws to stabilize the loose crystals, preventing them from falling on Amy. They worked together like a team, each beast doing what it could to help free their leader. "This is incredible," Jake said. "I have never seen anything like this." Amy had been working for 6 hours when she finally created a gap large enough for the beast to escape. Her hands were bloody and her arms could barely move, but she had done it. "Try now," she said to the beast. "Try to pull yourself out." The great creature began to drag itself forward, using its powerful legs to push against the crystal floor. Slowly, inch by inch, it pulled itself out of the trap. The other beasts made happy sounds as their leader freed himself. When the beast was finally free, it stood up slowly. It was badly hurt, with deep cuts on its sides and legs. But it was alive, and it looked down at Amy with what could only be described as gratitude. The creature lowered its massive head and gently touched Amy's hand with its nose. It was a gesture of thanks from one intelligent being to another. "I cannot believe what I just saw," Crexton said quietly. "The small human did what all of us together could not do." "She saved a creature 10 times her size," Lone Crystal added. "How is that possible?" Amy looked at her bloody hands and smiled. "I did not try to be stronger than the crystals. I tried to be smarter than them. Sometimes brains work better than muscles." The beast's wounds were serious, and Amy knew it needed medical help. She took out her first aid kit and began to treat the cuts. The creature stood perfectly still, letting her work on its injuries. "You are treating a Ravenclaw beast like it is a pet," Rogmar said in disbelief. "I am treating him like a patient," Amy corrected. "He is hurt, and I can help him feel better." As Amy worked, she noticed something important. The beast's wounds were healing faster than they should, but the areas where the black fungus had infected its skin were not healing at all. "The fungus is stopping his natural healing," she said to Lisa. "That is why the beasts are so sick. Their bodies cannot fight off infections anymore. Can you cure it?" Lisa asked. Amy looked at the fungus patches on the beast's skin. She had an idea, but it would be dangerous. "I think so, but I need to get samples of the fungus and test some treatments." The beast seemed to understand what she was saying. It held very still while she took small samples of the infected tissue. The other beasts watched quietly, trusting her completely. "How did you know they would help you?" Jake asked. Amy looked at the pack of Ravenclaw beasts surrounding them. "I listened to them. Last night, when they were calling to each other, they were not just making noise. They were asking for help. All I had to do was answer." The aliens looked at Amy with new respect. They had thought she was too small and weak to be useful, but she had done something none of them could do. She had saved a life through intelligence, determination, and kindness. "We should get back to the station," Jake said. "Amy needs medical attention for her hands, and we need to analyze those samples." As they prepared to leave, the alpha beast made a low sound to Amy. She turned around and saw that he was bowing his head to her, a gesture of deep respect. "Thank you," Amy said quietly. "Get better soon." The beast rumbled softly, and Amy knew. He was saying thank you too. Sometimes words were not needed between friends. Back at the space station, Amy sat in the medical bay while a doctor cleaned her cut hands. The other team members were talking excitedly about what they had seen in the caves, but Amy was thinking about the sick beasts. "Your hands will heal in a few days," the doctor said. "You were lucky. Those crystal cuts could have been much worse." "Thank you," Amy said, "but I need to get to the laboratory. I have work to do." "Amy, you should rest," Jake said. "You have done enough for one day." "The beasts are still sick," Amy replied. "I cannot rest until I find a cure." In the laboratory, Amy began to study the fungus samples she had taken from the alpha beast. Lisa helped her set up the equipment, and even some of the alien researchers came to watch. "What are you looking for?" Sethkar asked. The Vorvik leader had been very quiet since they returned from the planet. "I want to understand how this fungus works," Amy explained. "If I can figure out how it attacks the beasts, maybe I can find a way to stop it." Amy worked for hours, looking at the fungus through powerful microscopes and running tests on its chemical structure. Slowly, she began to understand what was happening. "The fungus feeds on the minerals in the beast's armor skin," she told the others. "It is like rust on metal. The fungus eats the minerals that make the beasts strong and healthy." Can you kill the fungus? Lum Crystal asked. Her crystal body was glowing with interest. I think so, Amy said. But I need to be careful. If I use something too strong, it might hurt the beasts too. Amy remembered her training about earth animals. When farm animals got sick, sometimes the cure was found in nature. She thought about the plants she had seen growing on HFY Prime, the ones that were not infected by the fungus. Lisa, do you have samples of the local plants? Amy asked. Yes, we collected some yesterday. Why? If some plants can resist the fungus, maybe they have natural chemicals that can fight it. Amy began testing plant extracts against the fungus. Samples. Most of them did nothing, but one small blue flower seemed to slow the fungus growth. This is interesting, Amy said, getting excited. The plant extract weakens the fungus. If I combine it with human antibiotics, maybe it will be strong enough to cure the infection. Human medicine might be toxic to alien animals, Crexton warned. That is why we test it carefully, Amy said. Small amounts first, to make sure. It is safe. Amy worked through the night, mixing different combinations of the plant extract and human medicines. By morning, she had created a treatment that killed the fungus in the laboratory samples without harming healthy tissue. I think this will work, she said to the team. But we need to test it on a real beast to be sure. That is very dangerous. Brogmar said, What if your cure makes the beast sicker? Then I will find another way, Amy said. But I have to try. The beasts are dying, and this might be their only hope. Jake made the decision. We go back to the planet. Amy can test her cure on the alpha beast. If it works, we can treat all. The infected beasts. The team returned to HFY Prime with Amy's experimental medicine. When they reached the caves, they found the alpha beast waiting for them. He seemed to remember Amy and made soft sounds when he saw her. Hello, big guy, Amy said gently. I brought something that might help you feel better. The beast lowered his head so Amy could reach the infected patches on his skin. She carefully applied the medicine to a small area first, watching for any bad reactions. The other beasts gathered around, watching quietly. How long before we know if it works? Lisa asked. A few hours, Amy said. The fungus should start to weaken first. Then the healthy skin should begin to grow back. They waited nervously. The alien team members had stopped making jokes about Amy's size. They watched her work with respect and amazement. After 2 hours, Amy checked the treated area. The black fungus was turning gray and flaking off. Underneath, new healthy skin was growing. It is working, Amy said with excitement. The cure is working. Over the next few days, Amy treated all the infected areas on the alpha beast. The great creature became stronger and healthier with each treatment. His armor skin began to shine again, and his eyes became bright and alert. I have never seen anything like this, Sethgar said, watching Amy work. The human has saved a creature that we thought was doomed. She did it with her brain, not her muscles, Thulgrim added. Maybe we were wrong about human strength. Amy treated the other beasts in the pack, and soon they were all healthy again. The young ones played together, and the adults hunted for food like they used to do. But Amy was not finished. She wanted to clean the infected water sources and help the crystal trees recover too. She worked with the local ecosystem, teaching the beasts to avoid contaminated areas while the environment healed. The whole planet is getting better, Lisa observed. Amy found a way to cure the entire ecosystem. Word of Amy's success spread throughout the space station. Alien researchers who had laughed at her now came to ask for her help with their own projects. They had learned that intelligence and determination were more valuable than size and strength. Commander Jake found Amy in the laboratory a week later. She was working on a new project, studying how to prevent the fungus from coming back. Amy, I have good news. Jake said with a smile. The Galactic Federation wants to offer you a special position. They want you to lead a new program to help sick alien animals across the galaxy. Amy looked up from her work. Really? They want me to help more creatures? The aliens were very impressed, Jake explained. They said humans have a special gift for understanding and helping other species. They want you to teach others how to do what you did here. Amy thought about the Alpha Beast and his pack. She remembered how grateful they had been when she helped them. She thought about all the other creatures in the galaxy who might need help too. I would like that, Amy said. There are probably many animals out there who need someone to care about them. The next day, representatives from all the alien species came to thank Amy personally. Seth Carr, who had been the first to mock her, bowed his head in respect. I was wrong about you, small human, he said. Size does not matter. What matters is the courage to help others. Lum Crystal-S crystal body, flashed with beautiful colors. You have shown us that strength comes in many forms. Your strength saved lives. Thulgrim, the giant grounded, knelt down so he could look Amy in the eyes. I said you were too small to matter. I was foolish. You are bigger than all of us where it counts. Amy felt proud, but she also felt humble. I just did what anyone would do. The beasts needed help, so I helped them. No, Thulgrim said. Most people would have given up. You never gave up. On their last day on Kethver Prime, Amy went to say goodbye to the Alpha Beast and his pack. The creatures were healthy and strong again, playing in the crystal forests that were growing bright and beautiful once more. The Alpha Beast saw Amy coming and walked over to greet her. He was so big that she only came up to his knee, but he was very gentle with her. He lowered his massive head and touched her hand with his nose, just like he had done when she first saved him. Amy smiled and patted his armor skin, which was now shiny and strong. Take care of yourself, big guy, and take care of your family. The beast made a soft rumbling sound that Amy had learned meant thank you in his language. The other beasts came over to say goodbye too, each one touching her gently with their claws or noses. They will never forget what you did for them, Lisa said, watching the scene with tears in her eyes. And I will never forget them, Amy replied as their ship flew away from Kethver Prime. Amy looked down at the beautiful crystal planet. The forests were glowing brightly again, and she knew the Ravenclaw beasts were healthy and happy. She thought about her new job, helping alien animals across the galaxy. It would be challenging work, and there would probably be other aliens who would doubt her abilities because of her small size. But Amy was not worried anymore. She had learned that being small did not make her weak. Her size had actually helped her in the caves, allowing her to reach places the bigger aliens could not go. Her careful observation had helped her spot problems that others missed, and her willingness to never give up had made the impossible become possible. The Alpha Beast had taught her something important. Strength was not about how big or powerful you were. True strength was about caring for others, even when it was difficult or dangerous. Amy smiled as she planned her next mission. Somewhere in the galaxy, there were probably other creatures who needed help, and she would be ready to help them, no matter how small she was compared to the task ahead. The aliens had laughed at her delicate body, but now they understood the truth. Inside that small body was a heart big enough to care for the entire galaxy.